Thank you, Glenn. I'm sure everybody out there is happy that the mighty instrument is back.
Thank you very much. I want to talk to you a little bit about the book, but I want to kind of skip around. First, I guess start where you, where you begin in the book, where you are talking about, how you realized that you had to get out and thinking that you were going to get out and expose it in the New York Times. Explain what happened with the Black Panthers real quick.
I raised a lot of money. I was introduced to the Black Panther Party by a Hollywood producer, and I raised a lot of money and bought a Baptist church. It was a white Baptist church that had been overtaken by Oakland's inner city for them to use as a school. The party had a lot of children, even though it was a gang. I didn't realize it was a criminal gang, but it was.
David, because you grew up, your parents were communists. They called themselves progressives, but they were communist, getting their orders from, Russia. So you grew up in all of this. Did you really, at no time did you look at the people around you, the Bill Ayers of the world, and say, I'm hanging out with the wrong people?
I despised Bill Ayers and said so at the time. I mean, he was a white son of a very rich man. He was irresponsible and violent and inciting people to violence. I saw through him. I didn't see through the Panthers because I was under this delusion. The people on the left are idealists in the philosophical sense. They believe that ideas change the world. So I looked at people's ideas rather than at who they were. I mean, I described this at length in my autobiography, Radical Son. It really didn't equip me for life. When other normal people are young, they're testing themselves, seeing who they are. They're testing other people. I was always preaching. I mean, it's a problem with preachers. So if I saw somebody who, was going down a wrong path, I was just going to convert them. I didn't take in the reality of the path they were on. And, of course, because the Panthers were black, I mean, they're like Obama. They get away with everything. People are always defending them. It's racist police. No, it's not. These people are criminals.
So you were on the race. You were on the role of they were racist. So you start a church, and then you actually represent, or you have a friend, and say, hey, you should go work and do the books of this church.
Well, I asked her, right. She was my bookkeeper at the magazine, the Left Wing magazine I was editing. And I asked her to do the books of the school because I had made it a tax-exempt foundation. And I was under the mistaken impression that the IRS would close down anything that was left. And she disappeared in December 1974, and by the time the police fished her body out of San Francisco Bay 5 weeks later, I knew that they had killed her. And this happened to coincide with the America's retreat from Vietnam, something that the leaders of the Democratic Party today are very proud that they accomplished by cutting off the economic aid to the Cambodian and Vietnamese regimes. And they proceeded to slaughter 2.5 million people with no protest from the left. And that was my awakening. And this was in early 1975. But I was devastated by the death of this woman because, of course, I felt responsible, and I couldn't understand why I didn't see the dangers. It took me 7 years, really, to come out of the Depression and become a conservative. I mean,
and so then Reagan, by this time, Reagan is in, and Reagan 7 years prior had to have made your head explode, but
I was scared of Reagan because I saw the Cold War the way the left does, and now the way all of our school children are going to see it since Oliver Stone has made this communist
utopia.
Film. He made a 10-part series for Showtime, which is going to be shown in the schools, which is a straight communist version of the Cold War. So in the communist version, the Soviet Union was the victim, and we were the bad guys.
Jeez.
And that's the way progressives think. And again, the reason I put together this book is because I know that conservatives are still scratching their heads and saying, how the heck did we ever get to this point and get this guy like this in the White House? And the answer is over many years, about 20 years, when everybody was sort of asleep as this was happening. And the Black Book of the American Left was largely a record of my, at the time, lonely fight. I don't want to say I was the only one fighting these people, but I was one of the very few who understood who they were.
I tell you, David,
Conservatives were calling them liberals.
Thank you for saying that. Oh, it drives me out of my mind when I hear conservatives call people liberal. They're not. They're progressives and they're communists. David, I have to tell you that one of the reasons why I admire you so much is because I know what little, in comparison to what you have gone through, what little I have gone through trying to get this word out, and you were alone for decades, and you never, ever sat down. Let me change the subject here. You talk about neo-communism in the book.
Yes.
What is the difference between progressive and neo-communist?
I don't think there is any. I mean, the whole idea of progressive is that there's this incredible future. Really, it's the kingdom of heaven. There's perfect equal. Everybody's equal. Everybody gets taken care of from cradle to grave. There's not going to be any wars. There's no racial or gender, class prejudice. That's the vision of progressives. Well, that's communism. And what communism is it's a false religion. It's the idea that there's this kingdom of heaven that we can create, that ordinary human beings can create, the politically wise among us. And, this is the story of Babel all over again.
It is.
Genesis. You shall be as gods. There was actually a progressive psychologist, Eric Fromm, who wrote a book he was very popular in the 1960s and 50s. But it was, you shall be as gods. No, you won't. I mean, the wisdom of Genesis, of the Judeo-Christian religions, is to see that we're the problem. It's not society isn't the problem. Society just reflects who we are. How can you expect the people who, have created the social problems to fix them if you give them enough power?
That's the thing that, we're looking at Detroit now being swallowed into the abyss. Yeah. And we're watching the American healthcare system going down the same road. And it's the same people. And every time we're watching the Detroitization of America happening in real time.
Everywhere the Democrats have controlled the inner cities. I mean, Detroit had it's the richest per capita city in America in 1961 when the first Democrat took control, was elected.
Right. But it wasn't.
50 years later, it's the poorest.
I think we have to make a difference here. Just like liberals are not liberals, they are progressives. Democrats, I don't know what happened to Democrats. I don't know when they stopped being, my grandparents and started to embrace radical leftist policies. It wasn't Democrats.
Well, I can tell you exactly when it happened. It happened at the Democratic Convention in 1968 when Tom Hayden and the left organized a riot to destroy Hubert Humphrey. He was the Democrat who was going to run against Nixon. They deliberately set out to destroy his possibility of becoming president so that they could take over the Democratic Party, which they then did behind McGovern. McGovern started his political career in the Henry Wallace Progressive Party campaign of 1948, which was a communist-controlled campaign. And it started with McGovern, and it went through Watergate. I've watched it happen over a 30, 40-year period. It didn't happen overnight. Obama is not an overnight phenomenon. He's a phenomenon, and neither is Obamacare. This is a culmination of 40 years of inroads into the Democratic Party is now a left-wing party.
All right. So here's what I want to ask you, because I think the Republican, the GOP, while they are not communists, they are progressives. And the Progressive Party began with the GOP. The Democrats just perfected it, but it's why we keep voting different ways and getting the same choices. And I look at Romney, and I know if Romney would have gotten in, we would not be talking about putting Obamacare away. He would have been talking about some new version of Obamacare.
Yeah, right, because...
Right. So they're not constant.
The Republican Party is a party of, Romney was not a small businessman, but
Yeah.
they basically, it's people in business.
Yeah, but it's the same progressive disease, a different form of it.
Well, but I look at it a little differently. I think the Republicans are fixers. They go to Washington to try to fix problems. They believe in this. The American system was set up to make competing special interests compromise with each other. So they have a huge longing to be reasonable and to make deals. You can't really make deals with the devil without
selling your soul.
jeopardizing your immortal soul. That's basically the problem.
David, I only have a couple.
The Republican problem is a little different. Although I agree. I mean, it's these deal makers. The Boehners, the McConnells. They're interested in deal making. They're not ideologically committed to the progressive agenda. They wouldn't believe in it. But they are committed to compromising with them.
Newt Gingrich is a proud progressive. He was on this program talking about progressivism. He is proudly progressive.
Such an undisciplined.
Oh, he's a nightmare. Anyway, David, I'd love to have you next time you're in Dallas. I'd love to have you in for the TV show and sit down and talk to you just specifically about the road to the next.
To come to Dallas, actually.
Yeah, I'd love to have you here because I want to talk to you specifically about the next road to the election. Because I cannot I can't do it. I cannot stand next to these guys or throw my hat and say we should support these guys who are fighting the people like Ted Cruz every step of the way. I can't do it, and I don't have time.
I've had Cruz at several of my events, and I think that Cruz and Scott Walker are two really good.
Yeah,
conservative Republicans.
All right, David, I've got to run now. I've got a hard network break, but I've got to run. But I thank you so much, and we'll have you on again. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks.
David Horowitz. The name of the book is The Black Book of the American Left. I'm telling you, this guy should be remembered as an absolute hero, and it will be in your hands to do it and to teach the things that he's trying to teach now in his book, The Black Book of the American Left. The only one that is really knows and is really documenting it, all footnoted.